Good morning. This is Christina Perry with Peregrine Academic Services. Thank you for joining us this morning. With me, we have several members of our client service management team. So I want to just let you know they're listening in and be able to respond to your questions. Thank you very much for joining us for this presentation of Write Cite. What we're going to do is give you sort of an overview for about 30 minutes of what the course is, how it can be used, why to use it, implementation, that type of thing. And then we'll try to save any questions until the end. So if you want to take notes, if there's anything that's unclear or if you have questions, just save those for the end, and then you can raise your hand in the webinar or you can type them into chat and we'll field those once we get through the presentation. Let me make sure that I'm recording. Yep, we are live. We're recording. So welcome to the new Write Cite academic writing course. Many of you may be familiar with a lot of Peregrine services. Up until last year, we offered an APA writing course, and it's still offered, but we decided to redesign it last year because in meeting with professors and administrators at conferences and over the phone, we found that they were very frustrated with their students' writing, and it wasn't just a matter of format. It wasn't, knowing about margins or headings or reference lists. It was really how to structure a paper, how to find credible sources to support their theories, how to avoid plagiarism. What is it? Whether it's blatant or inadvertent, how can you document other people's ideas, build upon them, and expand them? So this is really, this Write Cite course takes it back to the beginning of what is academic writing, how can we make it clear and effective and credible. So let's get on with the presentation. Okay, this is a picture of our brochure that just describes what the Write Cite course is. And I'll give you an overview of how it's designed. It's an online tool, like all of Peregrine's services. This one starts with a 20-question pretest. There are multiple choice questions that cover different areas of academic writing, from word choice and tone to organization and outlines, how to find and use different types of sources for literature-based research, and as we mentioned, ways to avoid plagiarism even when you don't realize you're committing it. So after that first pretest of 20 questions, the students will get a score. And that score just kind of gives them a baseline of where they're at, and it lets them know what's coming in the following lessons. After the pretest, there are 8 modules, and each of those modules will have different sections within them, about 4 or 5 sections that are the lessons. At the end of each section, they are offered multiple choice questions, and they need to answer 3 correctly to be able to move on to the next section. Once they've completed all 8 modules, there's a post-test, and it is composed of 50 multiple choice questions that are drawn from the entire course, all of the interactive questions from the sections. It'll bring up 50 for the post-test, and then students will get their score and completion certificate at that point. Okay, before we delve into really what the course looks like, I would like to discuss the purpose behind it. And really there are 3 reasons why an institution might want to implement Write Cite. And the first one, I've learned this from talking to a lot of different professors. It can be such an aid to allow them to focus more on the content of what they're teaching and less on correcting format and style in assignments. And this just seems to be a real common thread no matter what the professors are teaching. Their rubrics have a certain number of points allotted for clearly defining their concept, having a logical conclusion, citing their sources, and all that technical aspect of it. If we can go ahead and improve students' concepts of scholarly writing, then those points will come more easily to the student, and it'll be less of a pain for professors to grade. So that's one of the areas that we want to improve. We want to just make life easier for the professors. Another point is for our students. We believe in giving students the skills they need to succeed, not only while they're in their academic program, but also as they continue into their career. And this is an online tool that can make them more effective written communicators, and that can serve them throughout their entire life. So we believe in that purpose as well. And then the third reason for Write Cite is really it speaks to universities' accreditation requirements regarding institutional effectiveness and assurance of learning, and just really improving the quality of education. So there are some of the reasons behind why we believe in Write Cite. Okay. This slide again, it talks about the accreditation requirements and the foundational knowledge that are part of every institution's requirements. So we just want to make sure that the students are getting the full benefit of their education and that you're able to measure ways that you're improving their academic experience. Okay, so it is an online service, as are our assessments or academic leveling courses or any of the other Peregrine service you might currently be using. And it can be implemented in a lot of different ways. This is a type of course that is not specific to one department or one school within a university. It can be implemented any way that serves your students, anytime they might need guidance on ways to improve their scholarly writing. I've had professors talk to me about using it as a prerequisite before they enter an MBA program, in which case the students would have to sign up, register, take the course, and provide their completion certificate before they could be accepted into the MBA program. It could also be incorporated as an assignment. We take use an LTI integration to embed the link into a course, and since it's 8 modules, a professor could require 2 modules a week for the first month to get the students developing their writing before the end of term. It could be an optional tool that you put in your academic writing center for students who want to refresh and improve their knowledge that way. So really just a lot of different ways. You can have it on their own as part of a course, in a workshop as an option, but we would work with you to find a way to implement it to make your students better writers. The course also comes with a course guide, which sets forth the learning objectives for each of the modules and section. The learning outcomes are listed right there, and so that can be, mapped to your curriculum to see where it fits in. And then the competency exam at the end of the course shows you how you've measured those outcomes. The students have mastered them, in fact. So it does give a direct measure of your learning outcomes. Okay, now I'm going to go through a few slides that just cover the content of really the breadth of the course and what's covered in each of the modules. And keep in mind that for each module, there are several sections, and it's at the end of each section that the student reinforces their knowledge with the interactive questions. So the first module is really just talking about what is academic writing. And in order to find out what makes academic writing good, we discuss 2 ways that it can be very bad. One of those is sort of the student who really doesn't know how to structure a sentence, might have faulty punctuation, grammar, they really haven't supported their thoughts with any research, and it is just too informal. And this has become more prevalent. We find a lot of students, in discussion board posts might be using emoticons at the end of things. They keep it very informal, and I think it's really an influence of social media. So we specify that academic writing has to be professional, and the same standards need to be maintained, whether it's a discussion board post or a research paper. The other type of bad academic writing we cover is the bloated academic writing where a student might try to throw in a lot of impressive words, try to bamboozle and impress their professor rather than clearly stating their objectives and leading the reader to a logical conclusion. So we talk about different ways to make your academic writing as effective as you can, including the proper tone, word choice, and development, clearly defined research problem, the steps to lead your reader from your thesis statement to the conclusion, and then ways to build in other, incorporate other authors' research, credit those ideas, and build upon them. Module 2 covers the types of academic writing, and this covers 5 different types of assignments that students might be faced with. The first one is discussion board posts, where we say, you know, this really is not a social media post, this isn't a Facebook reply. The requirements are very different. You need to have your thought on the subject, you need to back it up with some research, and you need to raise a new area for discussion. So we give key points for each type of assignment. For essays, we talk about the purpose, the tone, the structure, for different types of narrative essays or argumentative essays. In case studies, we talk about conducting a literature review, finding what is out there about a certain topic, finding the case that might stand out and being, you know, have some sort of controversial aspect that hasn't been studied, how to bring that into a very narrow focus, and then how to extrapolate those results and maybe apply them to a larger case. We talk about research papers, about using your rubric to structure them, about brainstorming ideas for the topic and how to develop them, and then how to support them with others' documentation to lead to a conclusion. And then we get into the background of doctoral writing, master's writing for theses and dissertations, about technical requirements in those more advanced topics. Module 3 talks about literature sources in academic writing, and not only are we talking about you know, books, but we're talking about using video, we're talking about using websites, streaming documentaries, using professional journal articles, how to find them, how to read them, how to incorporate them. We also really focus on teaching students what is a credible source, and where do you need to look to find if a source is credible. How can you find more information about the organization behind a website? Why shouldn't you use Wikipedia? You know, we talk about having peer-reviewed articles as being a basis for credibility. So the fourth module, once we've defined what academic writing is, we've talked about the different assignments and their requirements, we've talked about how to research them, is really the nuts and bolts of writing the paper. And this module relies a lot on some traditional style guides. The Strunk and White elements of style are referred to for different word choice and nuance and effective writing. It also refers to Steven Pinker's The Sense of Style, which is a great new style guide that came out last year. It incorporates a lot of the wisdom that you might get from Purdue OWL or from different online resources. And then also, of course, it's based on documentation manuals like the APA manual. So in this area, we talk also just about errors of style, avoiding common pitfalls in grammar, and making a paper that's really well crafted, you know, a professional submission that a student can be proud of. Modules 5, 6, and 7 cover the technical aspects of academic writing for your school's particular documentation style. So if your school's using APA, MLA, or CMS, you would specify when you chose the course, which documentation style you're using, and then these 3 modules would have the rules for that particular style. So Module 5 talks about the body of the paper, it talks about the title page, abstract, table of contents, tables, figures, appendices, that type of thing. So this is covering the technical creation of your paper and knowing the requirements for each of those types of styles. Module 6 talks about in-text citation, not only how it needs to be done, but also when you would need to cite something, what the differences between paraphrasing, summarizing, direct quotations, and then how you would incorporate into your text so that the reader can verify the information, find the original source themselves, and make sure that you're accurately representing the ideas. Module 7 covers the reference section, so references for APA or a works cited list for MLA or notes and bibliography for Chicago style. And this gives the full bibliographic information to the reader and lists everything that's been consulted and cited in the work. So the lessons here cover different ways to reference, whether it's a book or a journal article or if it's something you found online, but really providing the necessary information so that readers can verify your sources. And then Module 8 is the final touch on the course. This is finalizing your paper, and it has 3 sections which talk about using feedback, seeking feedback and also giving it as a peer. It talks about revising your work based on that feedback, clarifying any points that are vague, developing ideas that might not have been fully clear, and then also proofing it for common spelling and grammar errors, and ways to just give your paper that final look over so that when you turn it in, you don't have anything embarrassing. So this is, it's a good reminder of the different steps, not only, you know, running a spell check, but really looking at your paper with fresh eyes and making sure that you're turning in your best effort. So those are the 8 modules. Like I said, each section there will be the interactive questions. The student is offered up to 10 questions at the end of each section, and they just need to get 3 correct to move on to the next. If they guess, it doesn't count. So for example, if I'm taking the quiz, it offers me a multiple choice question. I get it wrong on first attempt. It'll offer me that same question again. If I get it right, I can get another question, but it won't count as one of my 3 correct, because we don't want students to just guess. We want them to pay attention. If they get through 10 offered questions and they still haven't gotten 3 correctly answered on their first try, it's pretty obvious they haven't read the lesson. So it will refer them back to the beginning of the section to start it over, and then they'll get a chance to get 3 right. So that's how the progression works. Okay, let's just kind of recap right now the key features. As we mentioned, the pre-test is 20 multiple choice questions, and those are taken from the interactive quizzes. So it's just sort of a random sample that it establishes their initial knowledge level, but also gives them some idea of what to look out for in the coming lessons. If they score, you know, if you set a certain score on the pre-test and they meet that, you can say that they've tested out of the course. They obviously know what they're doing. Then the 8 learning modules cover the different aspects, the different lessons, and the quizzes reinforce the material at the end of each section. Once they've finished all 8 modules, the student will take a competency exam, which will be their direct measure of those learning outcomes, and it is composed of 50 questions that are taken from all throughout the course. So if your university says the student needs to have an 80% on that final competency exam to succeed, they have up to 2 chances to get that score. If they take it the first time and say the score is 75%, it will prompt them to retake, and it will offer them to go back and revise the material before they retake it. But it will also warn them that when they retake the test, it will wipe out their first score. So to be sure that they're ready and they take it seriously. And then if they aren't successful on the second attempt, they may have to repurchase it. That's up to the individual institution. And then as with all of our other services, the student receives a completion certificate with their scores, and it breaks them down by topic so that you can see where they've succeeded, and you have that measure of academic accountability. You would also have the competency exam results in your client admin site so you can see how well your students are doing. Okay, the next few slides are screenshots of what the course looks like. And I know that I think some of you, or perhaps all of you, have received the demo instructions for the course. If you haven't had a chance yet, we strongly urge you to go through, register for the demo site. It's actually not just a random sample. You go through each of the modules, you can see the course in its entirety, and I think it's designed in such a way that it really can bring something to any learner, from the student who really struggles with writing to myself or some of my colleagues who edit and proof work for other people. We all learn something from taking the course. So we ask you to go in, try it out, and give us your feedback, but we think it really has a lot of knowledge for different levels of learners. So anyway, here is the 20 question pre-test results. So once the student has made it through the multiple choice questions, it gives them their score, the time, and how well they did for each of the topics. And then once they've done the pre-test, it walks them through each of the sections or modules and sections. So here, if you look on the sidebar, you have the course layout, and then this is an example slide of just one area of didactic material where we have what is plagiarism, and there are little arrows. If you're on your computer, you click to go to the next slide. If you're on your smartphone or your tablet, you can just swipe through it and work through the course that way. And then once you get to the end of this section, it'll give you you have to get your 3 questions right to go on. Here's an example of the interactive questions at the end of a section. This is a little quiz at the end of section 2. One note about the slide. Here, if you look at it, it has record answer and then next to it show correct answer. The students will not see show correct answer. I need to edit this slide, but I took the screenshot after I had completed the course, so that will not be an option for the students. They will just get record answer. So here, which of the following should be accomplished by the introduction of a research paper? And then this relates directly to the lesson that preceded it. So a student, if they've read it, should be able to get it. And here it is, answer D. The introduction should introduce the topic, state the research problem, propose a thesis, and point the reader toward the conclusion. And it gives us correct, you chose this, and then it gives a little feedback. If I had chosen something else, say I'd chosen A, that it should describe the topic and my interest in it, it would give me incorrect and then refer me back to the area that I need to review. Okay, so you know, the student will work through all of the slides, all the interactive quizzes that way. And it's very easy to navigate because there's that sidebar menu, which will show a little green check mark for every area that's been completed. And you can jump around in there and say you want to go back and review something. You get to Module 8, you're learning about proofreading and revising, but you can't quite remember about in-text citation. You can jump back up to Module 6 and review that. So navigating around is not a problem. We really want students to be able to go back and refresh and review and master the material. In that vein, once the students finish the competency exam, they still have access to the course for 2 years. So if they want to go back and try again, review it, they won't get another score on their test, of course, but the information is there to remind them of the different academic writing skills. Okay, the competency exam, and here we go. This is the results after having taken the competency exam. As I told you, it has the little retake button that explains that if you're unsatisfied with your score, you can go back one more time, but it will wipe out your previous score. And then, you know, basically it's just letting them know that go back and review before you take the exam a second time. And then once we're done, we get a completion certificate. So here's a completion certificate that shows how many I got right. And then it breaks it down by module and by section within the module for the areas where I was strong and where I was weak. So that's a nice way to really measure how we achieve those learning outcomes. From the client admin point of view, and if any of you are I think you're all pretty familiar with Peregrine services. You've probably logged in and run individual results reports. This will let you see where students, when they've registered, when they've taken the course, and see their scores. Once your students have taken a pre-test and a post-test, you will be, or we call it a competency exam, you'll be able to see how they did from one to the other, and you'll have those results through the client admin site, which is a nice tool. You can measure their improvement. And then basically, I just want to end on the reasons why we think this is a good solution for you and why we really put a lot of thought into this and meeting the needs of both the professors and their students and also institutions with their quality assurance requirements. We want to teach students to think critically about the art of writing. It is a creative art, and it's not something that a person just rambles through. You know, you need to think about sources. You need to find background more than just the textbook. We need them to really consider what's available in research and how they can contribute and build upon knowledge. So it's really about opening their minds and giving them more critical thinking about the art of writing. We want students to do well in their academic program. We want them to have high scores on their assignments, but we also want to give them a life skill that will serve them in their careers beyond the university. We want to refer them to all of the technical requirements of different documentation styles to give their work professionalism and credibility. And then we wanted to make a solution that is easy to integrate into your curriculum and that you can offer as a standalone option, as a requirement for students to do on their own, as an activity in your course. You could do a writing workshop and incorporate it, but we just want to find a solution that can reach out to students in a way that leverages your resources and doesn't overly tax your professors spending too much time on basic foundational skills. Okay, if you do not have instructions for our demo microsite, please request them. I think those have been sent out or will be sent out, but go ahead and register for the demo and you will receive a link where you can go in and work through the course. You can take the pre-test, work through any of the modules, and take a post-test and just see how it works and, you know, sort of spark your imagination of how this might be able to help your students and yourself. And then, of course, here is our lovely client services team, and they're always available to answer all your questions, to help you set up services. And, you know, I can't say enough about them. They do such great work for our clients. So thank you. I think that's about all I wanted to cover. I'm going to go ahead and open the browser here. And let's see now, do any of you have any questions about the layout of the course, about ways to implement it, about the content? Any questions that we can answer now?
Hi, Christina. This is Brenda. I see that Graydon has a question. He states, if I want to make Write Cite optional but include it as a link in my course, can you structure it so that the student pay for the course, the students pay for the course rather than sending the university an invoice for all the students who have taken the course? We can absolutely do that. So we can set it up on your microsite to where they can opt into it, and then it will just ask them for their credit card information, and we're happy to do that.
Okay, I see another question in the question box, but for some reason my screen isn't scrolling down to see it. I think it's Mary asking about the cost per student.
Yep, and I answered Mary, but
Oh, okay.
for everyone's benefit, the starting price of the course is at $49, but as with all of our services, it depends on what you're using. So there is a discount offered based on the totality of your services at your university. And then I see that Perry has his hand up. Perry, I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question.
I had the same question. I'm good.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. I see Stephanie has her hand up. I'll unmute you, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you. I was just wondering, how long should students expect to spend in each of the modules?
Brenda, do you want me to tackle that one, or?
Yes, please do.
Okay, you know, I would say each of these modules would probably take the average student about an hour and a half to really work through each module. That's sort of an average time, and that lets them read the material, take the quizzes, and really integrate it. So for the whole course, the 8 modules, I would probably say 10 to 12 hours for the whole course.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Let's see, are there any other questions? And if you've listened to the presentation and you go through the demo later and you think of some questions, please do not just give us a call, shoot us an email, but we'd love to chat with you. This is a brand new service that we've just rolled out and that's really been well received. There's been a lot of interest. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I guess, let's see, are there any more questions at all, or have we covered it all? Looks like that might be it. Okay, well, that was a pretty quick presentation, really. I hope I didn't run through it and confuse you too much. But yes, we invite you to explore it. Let us know what you think, and if you want to discuss ways to build it in, if you want to have a student pay option for offering this to your students, or if you want to integrate it as an assignment in your course, you want to use it as a resource for your course, we'll find ways to make it happen. Okay, well, thank you again for joining us. Brenda, is there anything else we need to say, or?
Hey, this is Kayla. It looks like we do have a couple more questions.
Oh, okay.
Tony asked if this can be used within the standard LMS. Yes, we can integrate this through your LMS system like we do many of our other services. So that is something that we can integrate for you. And then it also looks like Joe asked a question. Let me read this real fast. You know, as far as he asked if we have a pricing module where if a student earns a passing grade on the pretest, they're finished. That would really be at the institutional level as far as if that's something that you guys wanted to do. I do know with some of our academic leveling courses, they do have we do have universities that may say if you get an 84% on the pretest, you're done, but the price would still be the same once they purchase that. So that would kind of be more of an institutional decision. I'll unmute you, Joe, and see. Did that answer your question? Okay. And then it looks like there's another one.
Yeah, Tony asks if there's a different version based on degree, and it's one version except for you can customize at the MLA, CMS, APA, but we really feel like this course is relevant for all degrees.
And then did we answer Stephanie? I'll unmute Stephanie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you did. I had asked about how much time it takes, so I'm all set.
Okay, perfect. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Well, if that's it, I'll go ahead and stop the recording. Get back to us with any comments or questions you may have, but thank you so much for joining us this morning. Okay, I'll tell y'all goodbye and have a nice day.
Tony,